It could be one of the darkest and most sinister secrets in the entire field of UFO investigation.
There was an underground base here in the Mesa.
Human and alien genetic experimentation.
Boom submerged in sort of yellow liquid.
These experiments are reportedly going on in Dulce, New Mexico, deep below the desert brush in a secret underground base.
Even reports of some kind of underground battle.
62 to 72 bodies were pulled out of there.
Are aliens being housed at an underground complex?
They call Level 6 Nightmare Hall.
Or is this just a cover for a top secret military operation? And if so, why?
They left the fetus inside the animal.
My God.
This is case number 66105, Underground Bases.
There is a whole theory about secret underground bases, especially the big base in Dulce, New Mexico. Allegedly, there is a vent coming out of a hill. Why would a vent be coming out of the hill?
The only explanation would be some sort of facility in the mountain.
If there is a base here, there's going to be a massive infrastructure. There's going to be a ventilation system, a water management system, a power system. If this is a government facility, I'm sure they can hide a lot of it, but some of it's going to be apparent.
Kevin's right. I mean, an underground base would need power. There would probably be vents on the surface, but maybe not. If they designed something ultra top secret, most of the base would be underground.
I know for a fact that we have underground military bases that were built to protect and house the government and military in the event of a nuclear attack. But whether or not aliens are involved in Dulce, that remains to be seen.
We don't even know that there's actually a base here. That's as simple as it gets, and that's where, personally, I want to start.
Okay.
If I see something that leads me to believe that there is a base there, then I'll think about what's going on in the base and who's running it.
When you hear the stories, when you're on the Indian reservation and see what there is to see, when you do that, I think your minds will be open to the possibility that something incredible and possibly very sinister is going on there.
We're in Dulce, New Mexico, about 200 miles away from Albuquerque. Our goal is to locate a secret underground base where the government reportedly has been housing aliens and carrying out strange experiments.
My name's Ken Storch, and there's definitely something strange going on in Dulce, New Mexico.
My name is Bob. I'm an undercover operative, and Dulce is the ultimate undercover operation.
We're here in Dulce meeting with Bob and Ken, investigators that have been looking into this area for over 10 years now. And these guys have made Dulce the central focus of their investigations because they believe something really strange is going on here.
What got you into the Dulce business?
When we first learned about the Dulce papers from this retired Air Force colonel, we were told that there was an underground base here in the Mesa.
The Dulce papers surfaced in the 1980s, and they documented the levels of experimentation going on at that secret base. They also talked about a fight.
In '79, the Greys took over our scientists. Delta, FBI, CIA, the security force that's in the mountain itself. They went down to get the scientists, and a firefight occurred. From 62 to 72 bodies were pulled out of there.
Our very first trip down here, we were contacted by a Jicarilla police officer.
We went onto the reservation. Out of my peripheral vision, I see the squad car pull up. He said to me, what are you looking at? I said, the Archuleta, and I just bluntly looked at him and said, were you here in '79 when they dragged the bodies out of the Archuleta? He looks me dead in the face and says, yes, but we're not allowed to talk about it.
Whoa. This is bizarre. We have an officer admitting to seeing bodies removed from this supposed firefight, but he's forbidden to talk about it. So there might be something to this, but still, it's secondhand and it's just a story.
What role does Archuleta Mesa play in all this?
The only thing that we can think of is that it's in a remote area and it's only accessible from certain points. There's a section up there 30 yards wide, 200 or 300 yards long, where the tops of the trees are clipped off. They're all laying in one direction. The first story that we got was that it was a flying saucer from Area 51 that was back engineered. They were flying it and they got into trouble and tried to do an emergency landing on the mesa and crashed, and that's what started the fire. Second version was that it was an F-16 that crashed, and that came from an Air Force major. But I can't find anything about the crash, what caused the crash, who the pilot was, what happened to the pilot, or anything.
All of a sudden you get steered in this direction, you get an question answered, and then all of a sudden it steers you in another direction, you hit a brick wall.
The worst thing that a detective or an investigator can do is take the evidence and lead it. What you have to do is you have to follow the trail. And you have to keep an open mind, and you have to be objective when you go down that path.
Ken and Bob are giving me some clues that point that something is going on, but there's nothing definitive yet that tells me that there really is an underground base here. I want to get closer to Archuleta Mesa, get a closer look, and maybe I'll be able to make a little more sense about what's happening in Dulce.
My name is Troy Vicente, and I honestly believe that there is a UFO base within Archuleta Mesa.
Kevin and I have come to the base of Archuleta Mesa to see if there's anything going on here. We're meeting with a local, Troy Vicente, to see if he knows anything about this place and has experienced any UFO sightings for himself.
From the front gate, as you're coming in, my wife saw this big old flying craft that was hovering, and it's a very big craft, probably about 3 or 4 football lengths wide.
Was it round?
Yes, round. As we stood there, all I could see was the disc, the bottom of the disc, because of the flash of the Dulce lights shining against it.
There is a reflection from the lights in town on the bottom of this craft.
Yes, sir. I thought it was going to hit that mesa, but it just seemed like it just barely grazed that mesa there.
Craft flew into the mesa or over the mesa?
Above, on top of it.
Do you think it's possible that maybe this UFO that you saw, maybe it originated from Archuleta Mesa?
We already know that there's a UFO base here.
It's common knowledge that there's a UFO base here in Dulce?
Yes.
It's amazing that they just accept a UFO base being here. Now, this is a good sign for starting off our investigation.
I'm off to Las Vegas to talk to John Lear about the mysteries of the Dulce Papers and their ultimate origin. Can you just start us off and tell us how this whole story began?
I met Ann West. She told me that she knew a security officer there. His name was Thomas Costello. Supposedly he escaped with 7 minutes of videotape, 25 black and white photos, and about 100 pages of information on what was going on there. He contacted Ann, who was a longtime friend of his, and said, what I want you to do is bury this information. I'll contact you every 4 months. If I miss 2 meetings in a row, then I want you to take that information and expose what's going on there. When she was shown the photos before he put it in the box, he asked her to make some drawings. And these are the original pencil drawings that she made.
What is there at Dulce from these drawings?
What's underground has 7 levels. There's all kinds of experiments going on. Womb submerged in sort of yellow liquid, looks thicker than water. Dozens of creatures in each womb. Can't count the tanks. 3 fingers, 2 toes, not human.
All we do know, or at least believe from the photographs, is that there's experimentation with human beings.
Correct.
There are aliens who are living at Dulce.
Correct.
And we are working with the aliens at Dulce.
Correct.
I'm going to go back to Dulce now with an encyclopedic amount of information. It's the history of Dulce, the origins of Dulce, who's in charge of Dulce. John Lear said that he's the guy who got all the information from a guard who worked right there at the Dulce base. Inside the boxes that supposedly this guy, Thomas Costello, left were photographs. What I'm going to show you are some of the sketches he made from the photographs.
Looks like large pieces of pale meat in cloudy water, submerged, not floating.
Bill, are you serious about this?
Pat, that's what he said. A humanoid embryo growing inside a flask.
So I'm wondering, are these any sort of proof that this underground base is real, or is it a hint that the whole thing is just made up?
So you're saying that in this Archuleta, right here, Archuleta Mesa, all this sinister stuff is going on?
Yes. We're going to meet with John Rhodes, who's the repository of all information about what the Dulce base is, what's going on there, what they're doing, and who's in charge.
The base is underneath Archuleta Mesa. Supposedly it consists of 7 levels, each level increasing in security as you go lower and lower. The information that was provided to us by Thomas Costello gave us very complex floor plans that had been drawn out. Here we're looking at the first level of Dulce. The central hub here is security, which extends all the way down. It's the hub of these concentric ring circles. Each area is connected by corridors and passageways. Level 2, they strip you down and take all your personal clothing, they weigh your body, they take biometric scans of you and everything. And so in case you're trying to smuggle something out, they know exactly what you ate, they know exactly how much you should weigh, they know if you have something in your stomach.
They're really taking it to extremes.
Well, you would have to with something like this. They're frightened that it would be discovered that humans were being experimented on for genetic research. Level 3, we have the computer bank area. This is where they contain all command, control, communications, and intelligence.
Level 3 doesn't sound very dark. When does it all start?
Well, it starts getting more interesting at level 4. Here's where they get some of the more exotic research. They've studied the human aura, all aspects of telepathy, hypnosis, dreams.
Guys, wait, hang on a second. Wait, are you talking about extraterrestrial visitors that are working with our government?
Both.
John Rhodes talks about the government working with aliens, doing these weird experiments. This is where I have to draw the line.
They call level 6 Nightmare Hall. You have aliens experimenting on humans, humans experimenting on aliens. They feel that you can sacrifice the one for the many. There's nobody safe.
A little ways above Dulce Rock, something touched me in the back with a big hat and eyes. It was those people.
We're speaking to John Rhodes, who's describing the different types of experiments going on the different levels at Dulce. And he's confirming exactly what Thomas Costello said, that on levels 6 and 7, that's where some of the darkest experimentation is going on.
They call level 6 Nightmare Hall. This is where all the genetic experimentation is occurring, where they fuse animals and humans together.
John Lear showed me his drawings of the Costello photographs in which there were body parts in vats of morphed human beings in cages.
How do we know that's even real, though? I mean, that sounds like
I saw the pictures, Pat, with my own eyes.
Photographs or sketches?
Everybody saw, about 2 or 3 years ago, a mouse with a human ear growing out of its back. Do you remember seeing that?
I saw that.
Remember, the military-industrial corporate complex is actually about 30 to 40 years ahead of us. So that means that at the time when these came out, chances are they were successfully fusing humans and other animals together as a precursor to what we're seeing now.
Growing a human ear on a mouse could have some medical benefit, but that is so much different from aliens performing genetic experiments on humans.
The human test subjects are housed in level 5, they're taken in, the experiments are done on level 6, then they're transported to level 7. This is the horrific area. Guards like Thomas said that they had the cages. They were told not to talk to anybody. These were half men, half other animals.
Who's doing these experiments?
Reptilian humanoid beings, the small grays.
You're saying there are terrestrial reptilians down there, and there are gray aliens down there, and there are humans who are willingly helping to perform experiments on other humans down there.
Why are you
that is a nightmare.
Why are you so shocked at humans performing other experiments on humans?
I'm trying to separate fantasy from reality here.
When you absorb all of the Dulce information, you have to ask yourself, do you dare risk doing research on mice where if you could use a human being, you could advance your research by 30 years?
I just want to think about right now, is there a base? Is it possible?
Back in June 11th, 1972, in the LA Times, the lead physicist for the RAND Corporation, he said that in 1972, the government had the technology to excavate tunnels across the United States and put maglev trains in that were capable of doing 10 to 14,000 miles an hour. Now, this is not science fiction. We have the capability to do it. These are U.S. patents by Los Alamos National Laboratories talking about thermonuclear boring machines that melt through rock just like you're taking a knife through butter. People keep thinking rock is hard, you have to break it down. That's what we've been misled to believe when it comes to tunneling.
There are millions of patents, and very, very few of them actually make it to production. A lot of them don't even work. Is there anything that actually says these are real thermonuclear boring machines?
I went to Bechtel in Las Vegas, Nevada, and put in Subterrene, which is what they called one of these, a Subterrene, into their computer system. These are images of the Subterrene being tested up at Los Alamos Scientific Laboratories. The actual boring tips get superheated and they melt through solid rock. There's no excavation of materials that are needed. The rock penetrates, cracks, and presses liquid molten glass up through a lining all the way around it. In the early 1970s, there are plans for a network of underground tube shuttles. There are tube shuttle systems leading out of the base.
So we have these tunnels under the United States now. You're saying this is a reality?
Absolutely.
In order for me to even get close to believing this, I need more video, I need testimony, I need photographs, I need some physical evidence that any of this is going on.
These revelations from John Rhodes are certainly explosive. In fact, they're monumental. But as an investigator, I have to entertain other possibilities. I have to look at what else could be happening at the Dulce base. So we will meet with Norio Hayakawa, a researcher who will give us some alternate theories about what might be going on at the Dulce base.
In 1990, I brought a Japanese television crew right here in Dulce. We wanted to know what was going on. And strangely enough, we were arrested and detained actually by the police chief. We asked him why we were detained, and he didn't want to tell us anything. We asked him about the Dulce base, and he said he didn't want to talk about it.
So he didn't confirm or deny?
He didn't confirm or deny.
That smacks to me of some kind of a cover-up. What were they trying to hide?
How long have these stories about Dulce been going on?
Well, this whole Dulce rumor started in the mid-70s when cattle mutilation started taking place in this area, and then later on rumors started circulating around that there is an alien base.
So do you think that's part of the cover-up, what's in the base?
There's something going on in Dulce. The sightings and cattle mutilations are facts.
We're on our way for a meeting with Gabe Valdez, a retired New Mexico State police officer. Gabe investigated cattle mutilations 20 years ago, in which cattle, seemingly healthy, are killed, and then the soft tissue is excised from their bodies. We hope he'll share whatever he learned with us.
In my profession, you have to focus on physical evidence. And the physical evidence that we found doesn't come from outer space.
Can you tell us what you found?
Gas masks, monitoring instruments, radar shaft, and helicopter activity.
Finally, something tangible, and from a New Mexico State trooper, no less. This is a story from Dulce that I can get behind.
What I found out, they were coming in marking the cattle ahead of time, and then later on they'd hit him with a tranquilizer, and then they'd take the lymph nodes out of it.
The lymph nodes were consistent from each mutilation case.
Then they would take more stuff out to kind of confuse people.
And what about this argument that it's just coyotes or ants or some wild animal that's killing the cattle?
Coyotes don't wear gas masks.
They're doing testing on cattle, and it's very apparent because he's found evidence. He has tangible things such as a gas mask, glow sticks, some sort of devices. It points to humans, not aliens.
Were your people able to ever figure out what this research is about?
We suspect that it's not disclosable.
It's not the extraterrestrials, Gabe said. It's us. But who? The government? The military? Some unknown shadow government organization? Gabe wouldn't tell us.
Who would be keeping this a secret?
Well, because of the consequences.
Gabe said the consequences would be too dangerous.
We're taking pictures of a lot of helicopter activity in the area. These were just taken 10 days ago.
I think that if there was some kind of secretive organization operating here, they wouldn't have a huge emblem or logo on the side of their helicopter.
The aliens are so advanced in technology, why do they leave all these physical evidence behind?
We have alternate opinions now on whether there are UFOs and extraterrestrials, or whether the craft, the unknown lights people are seeing, are really unconventional aircraft that we're using. We have to get more evidence.
We could tell where the aircraft came to. They didn't do the whole process. This is what we found inside the fetus of a mutilated cow.
But it was not a cow fetus.
Some part of it was, and the other wasn't.
What are we looking at here? Is this a head?
The cow where it was mutilated, whole inside is gone, cleaned out.
Gabe Valdez is giving us a whole new approach to the cattle mutilations he investigated. His investigation told him these were not extraterrestrials at all, but he actually saw military helicopters over these mutilation sites.
During your years of investigating cattle mutilations, what is the most anomalous evidence you came across?
Well, they mutilated this animal about 40 miles east of here, and we could tell where the aircraft came to. They didn't do the whole process, and they left a fetus inside the animal.
A fetus?
Yeah.
Look, a fetus, a cow fetus.
No, it looked like a human, a monkey, and a frog. It didn't have any bones in the head. It was all full of water.
What was the size of this fetus?
Probably about 42 inches long, but something went wrong with whatever they were doing.
What you're implying is that that cow is being used as an incubation chamber for a cloned creature.
Exactly.
My God.
What are we looking at here? Is this a head?
That's the front part is the head.
This is bizarre.
And was this open when you found it?
Yeah, it was open.
These are amazing photographs, and it's incredible that this kind of evidence was even left behind. But I'm still not convinced that this is the result of some sort of exotic testing going on at an underground base here in Dulce.
And are these the eyes?
Yes. You really had to retrieve them back in order to see them.
So there are eyes underneath
Yeah,
that fur skin going on.
Look at the ear.
That's an ear?
Yeah, that's the ear. It's an ear of the human.
What happened to the fetus?
We took it and had it analyzed. It was very confusing to the veterinarians.
Did the vet identify anything as human in that fetus?
Yeah, I think he could tell the eyes were.
Honestly, this just looks like some crazy genetic experiment gone completely wrong.
Yes.
Right.
It's madness. This is madness.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. There are cows born with 8 legs and 2 faces. I mean, this could just be some sort of a birth defect.
But they're cows, Pat. They have hooves, they have cuds.
I would say acute deformity.
Where do you have a human-shaped head on a cow?
Well, the fetus photos were horrifying. This was definitely some kind of a monstrosity. I can't say for a fact whether this is the result of some kind of genetic hybrid experiment or merely a genetic mutation, maybe even just a birth defect.
What Gabe is telling us says that there's a lot going on here that would require some sort of facility to operate out of. If that's the case, Dulce, New Mexico is still a prime candidate for this underground base, and I still want to find it.
There was a whole busload of kids that morning, and we all saw it. I remember little kids were screaming. The little girls were rushing to the head of the bus, and they were holding onto the cloak of the priest. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was looking at a flying disc. My name is Darren Vigil Gray, and I've seen a UFO come from the area of Archuleta Mesa.
We're here at the base of Archuleta Mesa to meet with archaeologist Garth Baldwin to discuss the geological makeup of the mesa and see if it's even possible that an underground base could be built here.
Garth, we're here at the base of the Archuleta Mesa, inside of which there's reputed to be a top secret base for genetic engineering. I guess the question for all of us is, what kind of engineering would it take to have created such a base inside the Earth? Can you tell us about the rock formations and what kind of rock we're dealing with?
Up on the mountain where you do find soil, it's between 1 foot and less, and then it's just bedrock. The upper strata up there that you can see exposed is a columnar basalt. That's much too fragmentary for any kind of drilling or anything out. It makes great fence posts, but it wouldn't necessarily support being ground out inside. But below that, there's layers of basalt that are more structurally sound. There's also sandstones below that.
It sounds like top layer, very, very difficult to drill through.
They'd have to start at the bottom of the mesa or near the bottom of the mesa where there's a stable strata of rock that they could get into.
Let's just say you were hired by the government to design an underground base. Would there be any reason for you to pick Archuleta Mesa?
It's a mesa, so you've got a starting point where you know where the stratigraphic layers of rock are, so you've got a structure to begin with.
According to the specifications that we've been given for this base,
how much of a diameter does this have right here?
The base can extend up to 4.87 miles.
4.8 miles, is that correct?
4.8 miles diameter.
That's the diameter of the base.
That's about the size of the mesa. That would fit within the structure that you're talking about.
Garth is telling us that Archuleta Mesa actually has the size to house something of this magnitude. And while I don't necessarily believe yet that there is a base inside the mesa, it's good to know that the possibility of it being there is real.
It's conceivable that they're coming in through tunnels and actually drilling out the space for this underground base from the bottom up.
If that technology were true, then that would be possible. The human species has such a knowledge of mining and structural engineering that I'm not surprised by anything that our engineers can do.
I'm really happy to hear Garth's feedback about what the makeup of the mesa, and it does seem like he thinks it is possible to have an underground base there, even given the massive size of this thing.
Garth said he didn't know what kind of technology we had that can do this kind of drilling in an expeditious way, but John Rhodes showed us that technology exists today. Therefore, it's quite possible we are standing in the shadow of the Dulce base.
I really want to find a vent. That's really what I want to find.
I'm gonna have to get a better look at that.
It's a 14-mile underground tunnel that goes under that mountain there.
Yes.
Something had come over the car, some object, 3 red lights in a triangular shape. I'm JRTQ, and I seen an identified flying object here in the Hickory Apache Reservation.
So as we've conducted our investigation here in Dulce, we've heard a lot of interesting stories, but we're still left with a question mark. And naturally, that leads our investigation to one place, Archuleta Mesa itself. It's treacherous and it's dangerous, so for safety reasons, just Pat and I are going to go there, and we're going to see what we can discover.
Given the vastness of the area, it would be a little bit silly for us to go it alone up here. So we brought Richard along because he's an experienced guide. He's been up here before. He's familiar with the area. And he's seen a vent or some kind of hole in the mountain before. So we're trying to find that now. Well, the CAD ride up was no luxury tour. It was a rough ride, a lot of bumps. The trail alternated between snow and gravel. I think Kevin looked a little bit green on the way up. The snowcat has just dropped us off at the top of Archuleta Mesa. We're finally here, over 9,500 feet, overlooking the entire Jicarilla Apache Reservation. The view is spectacular, and I can't help but think that if there's any truth to this story, that there is an underground base here. We couldn't be any closer to it.
Been waiting a long time for this, to get to actually to the top of Archuleta Mesa. And if there is an underground base here, and this is where we're going to find it.
So Richard, we're finally here at the edge of Archuleta Mesa, supposedly where so much of the activity is going on. You're our guide here. What do you know about what's going on around here?
There's a lot of things out here that we see flying in the sky. I'd rather keep them to myself. There's a lot of people around here that does the same thing.
If you leave the reservation with these stories,
yeah,
people don't believe you.
They think I'm nuts.
What have you seen up here?
Me and one of my cousins, we were walking the edge. We spotted a hole on this side.
A hole?
Now I hear things that it's a vent or things like that.
It seems like Richard is hesitant to tell his story or his experiences. I'm not sure why. But then he goes on to tell me about a hole or a vent that he discovered. Now, he's not sure what it is, but I think that maybe this could be some evidence to show us that there is something underneath Archuleta Mesa.
Before coming up here, so many people have wondered what these mystery towers were.
Some towers are transmitters for TVs and things like that.
From down the ground, they look like something special, out of place, out of the ordinary, but from right here, it just makes sense. I really want to find a vent. That's really what I want to find. Well, I'm going to pull out the infrared camera and see if there are any unusual heat signatures in the area. The FLIR camera is measuring the difference in heat, and it's primarily used by law enforcement to hunt suspects at night. Now, what we're going to do is look for anomalies in the ground. If there is an air vent, if there's hot air coming out, it's going to be at a different temperature than the surface of the mesa itself, and we're going to find it. I don't expect any kind of sign that says, "Welcome to the underground base," or any armed guards or anything like that. What I'm hoping for is just some signs of human activity that's just kind of out of place.
That looks a little interesting.
I did see something interesting just down below. It was a mound of snow, and there's an outcropping of rock just on the southern face of it. And it had an interesting marking on it. Saw it with the binoculars. When I took the infrared camera to it, it looked completely normal.
While Kevin scanned the mesa with the FLIR camera, I pressed Richard a bit more about what he knew about the area. He began telling me about a tunnel system that he knew existed around here.
We got one that's over here on the east side from us. It's just a splitting of this water down there. It goes, down about 14 miles into that mountain you see over there.
He did tell me that there are underground tunnels to the south of the mesa.
It's a 14-mile underground tunnel that goes under that mountain there.
Yes.
And everybody knows about this?
Oh, yeah.
And then I asked him if there were any other tunnels that he was familiar with. He said that there were holes that he couldn't take us to. Are there any other tunnels that you know about?
Yeah, I seen 2 holes on this side.
There are more tunnels than we know about?
Yeah.
Is there any way you could take us to the holes?
No, I'm not going to go there.
When I pressed him further, he got a little uncomfortable, and he just said that's not his way. There are holes.
Yeah, I know where it's at, but I don't want to go there.
Okay. It's important to remember that when you come to the Jicarilla Apache Nation, that you're really coming into another country, and they do have their own way. It seems like there's a secret in the family that they're not comfortable talking about, that they don't want to disclose, and that's kind of the feeling I'm getting from hanging out with Richard up here. Kevin, how you doing with the FLIR over there?
Tell you the truth, I'm not finding anything unusual. There are some hot spots, but they're all on the sunny side of a rock, the sunny side of a tree, coming to around 70 degrees.
After talking with all the people who live here around the base of the mesa, and even Richard, our guide, who was taking us up here, every one of them has a UFO story. If reality is a consensus of people agreeing on seeing something, then we have to start paying attention to the reality of the Hickory Apache, that they are seeing UFOs, and this does appear to be some kind of UFO area.
Pat and Kevin have seen some incredible things at Dulce. We've heard amazing stories, we've listened to eyewitness testimony, and we've seen credible evidence. But after everything they've seen and heard, they're still on the fence. There's still one more place I want to take Pat and Kevin, which may help bring them around.
I really find it hard to believe that there's a secret bunker hidden somewhere here.
Best way to keep a secret? Hide it in plain sight.
Although we've seen some mind-boggling things at the Dulce base in New Mexico, if there's any doubt about whether a base such as Dulce could exist, we're here at White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, the home of one of our government's best-kept secrets. We're here at the Greenbrier, and the Greenbrier was a beautiful hotel built in 1913, but underneath the Greenbrier and set into the hill is the congressional facility for maintaining continuity of government in the event of a nuclear war. We're about to meet Linda Walls, who is going to take us through this facility and point out all the features that make this facility so important to us.
This hotel, this property has a tremendous history. We date the resort to 1778, 6,500 acres, 721 guest rooms.
Just standing here looking around, I really find it hard to believe that there's a secret bunker hidden somewhere here.
Believe it.
When was it actually built?
The construction was between 1958 and 1961. And on top of the bunker is the West Virginia wing.
About how big is the bunker?
112,544 square feet. Best way to keep a secret? Hide it in plain sight. Behind this, you're going to be amazed at what you'll see.
You mean you're not talking about these doors right here?
So how do you open it?
Well, if you could just help. Thanks, Pat.
Sure.
Watch your fingers.
Okay.
Once you move the wall, you uncover an 18-ton vault door, one of 3 in the facility that closed off the underground structure from the outside world.
Once the decision would have been made to seal the bunker, there would have been no way to get in from the outside. There was a 60-day supply of food. There was a 42-day supply of diesel fuel.
To have even known about this facility, you would have had to have had a top-secret government security clearance. However, every day, hotel guests here at Greenbrier walk through these camouflaged big vault doors into this conference center, and they never knew they were standing in a top-secret government facility.
It's huge.
It's over 16,000 square feet. Thousands of people have been in here, but they didn't know they were actually in a part of the bunker. This room was used for exhibits, medical exhibits, book exhibits, parties.
When the time came that the government had to continue, what did this room become?
The room would have been subdivided into 24 offices for the support staff of Congress.
I mean, there are hospitals, dormitories, there's even a crematorium. There are places for families and aides to stay.
Now, how is it possible that this place was kept a secret without the hotel employees and people of the town knowing about it?
I, like so many others, had heard for years that there was something here.
So you were working here while the bunker was still a secret?
Yes.
Did you ever see somebody walking through the hotel, suspicious looking character, and think he must be on his way to the secret facilities?
We did wonder about some of those television repairmen.
So that was the cover. All these people for television repair crews came in, and literally they were the ones working on this facility.
Now we know they were spending 85% of their time on shelter management.
This whole thing sounds like a page from a spy novel, and if the government can construct a facility of this size in plain sight and have it be completely covered up, I guess there's a possibility that in Dulce, New Mexico, something similar on a much larger scale could happen, given it's in the middle of nowhere.
When did you first learn, for real, what this was?
The day the article appeared in the Washington Post magazine.
Until the Washington Post broke the story, nobody knew that this hotel was a cover for an underground facility, literally a bunker, to house the legislative branch of government in time of war.
The last government truck left July 31st, 1995.
So that's 3 years it might have taken to actually build a facility to replace this.
Unless there were other facilities
already in existence.
Exactly. When you visit a place like Greenbrier with this extensive facility that was constructed under the very eyes of the people working here, it tells me that of course you could have a Dulce.
Bill has a point that it's very incredible that this kind of facility can be built right in front of the public eye.
We know that this underground facility is 112,000 square feet, and based on what we learned about the secret base in Dulce, and some calculations that I did, I actually learned that it could be over 3,000 times the size of a facility at Greenbrier. We know that Greenbrier took 3 years to build, so it could have taken 10 years, decades to construct any kind of base at Dulce, and there's not even any evidence that it was ever built in the first place.
The people who built Dulce could have built it for a variety of reasons, with a variety of cover stories. And where are they building it? On reservation land. Nobody's going to question that. And even if they did, they'd be told to shut up.
I mean, Homo sapiens were capable of incredible things. If we really put our mind to it, if engineers really wanted to build a base under Archuleta Mesa and keep it a secret, we have the technology to do that. It could be done.
Here's what I believe. We've spoken to first-hand witnesses, eyewitnesses, who've seen craft hovering over the Archuleta Mesa. We've spoken to people who've talked about cattle mutilations, who've actually seen black helicopters hovering over the countryside. We've seen actual photos of the strangest kind of entity I've ever seen in my entire life. A fetus in the womb of a mutilated cow, but it's not a cow fetus. What is it? Is there some strange genetic experimentation going on in Archuleta? Is there interbreeding of species going on and incubation inside cows, which is why they're mutilating this cattle? If you don't believe that all this can go on under the very eyes of an entire population, we went to Greenbrier in West Virginia, a completely undisclosed, top secret, underground base constructed right before the very eyes of hundreds of hotel guests and workers. Greenbrier proves that underground secret bases are not just a possibility, but probably an absolute reality.